Welcome to Cars Yeah. This is show number 2239.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Today is a very different show. As we end the year, I want to share some very inspiring past guests who we actually lost this year in 2022. I know that all of them would not want their memories to bring sadness, but instead that each of these special people would want to be inspiring to you, the listeners, through their messages and their shows. One of the wonderful things about podcasting is that I get to meet so many unique individuals and record their voices and stories and share those into the future so that people can hear them anytime they want. Toto Lascely, he was the CEO of Speedcom Communication. It's a company that he established after his parents immigrated here to the United States. Speedcom is one of the world's most recognized names in the communications and equipment industry for the motorsports industry, and they provide racers and teams with state-of-the-art products and accessories. And Toto was a very active racer. He held many victories, including the 24 Hours of Dubai and Barcelona, multiple podium finishes around the world. He was a first-generation immigrant whose parents came here to provide him with a better life, and he shared that passion he had for coming to the U.S. and being empowered to be able to do that. He built a very, very successful business. He was just one of those guys that was just always up, always positive, and always excited about what he was doing. And he was doing what he was very passionate about for sure. So you can go back and listen to Toto anytime you want, and he'll share his inspiration with you. I was very grateful for having him on the show. Russell Fleury was one of the most highly respected consultants in the corporate educational world. He was the founder and CEO of Road Scholars, a performance improvement firm that specialized in coaching automotive dealerships, was what he was all about. He would train people who were selling high-end cars how to do their jobs better. People who knew him called him the coach. I became friends with him because I met him about the time I started this podcast, and we stayed in touch, and he was a very early guest on the show. It was kind of him to take a gamble with a new podcaster like me who didn't really know what he was doing. And sadly, I had him all scheduled to come back in January of 2022, and I called him, and he said, I'm not feeling very good, and maybe we need to put this off a month, and sadly, COVID took his life very quickly. He was just one of these guys that was, he's always busy, always helping people. He became a great friend, and I'll miss Russell Fleury. Again, we have his voice to listen to and his inspiration, and no doubt he touched so many lives and helped so many people improve in so many ways. Really great guy, Russell Fleury. Mark Lambert, he was the owner of Lambert Auto, where he specialized in servicing and preserving cars, restoration work, tour preparation, and American, European classic cars, sports cars, and racing cars. He had over 40 years of experience and was an Indianapolis native. His grandfather owned a successful Ford-based racing team in the 20s and 30s, and his father taught him the value of driving and maintaining old cars. Lambert Auto was featured in the first authored book by Phil Berg, Ultimate Garages, and Mark was a veteran of judging several national concours, including Pebble Beach, Hershey. His passing came at way too soon. We'll really, really miss him, and I'm so glad that I got to meet him because he's another example of what Cars Yeah is all about, is those people who've wrapped their passion for cars into what they're doing, and I was really honored to get to know him before we lost him this year. Kurt Hooker, I met Kurt when I was doing my television show. He worked for 50 years at the Edelbrock Company in Los Angeles. He was there at the beginning, pushing a broom, and he worked his way up, spent his life there helping Edelbrock build that business. He was such a great guy to talk to. His passion for what he was doing was just intense. He loved cars. He loved working on cars, carburetors, helping people. He raced cars for a while and ran a front-end dragster, of course. Just a wonderful guy. And to get to meet somebody like that had been a fixture in a brand like that was just tremendous. And I'll tell you something, just this past year, he was on the show about 2-3 years ago. One of his children reached out to me and said, "Hey, thank you for having Dad's voice on your show. We can go back and listen on his birthday every year and hear him share his passion." And that's one of the things that this podcasting is pretty cool, is you record people's voices and they don't go away. They're there forever. I've had many, many guests on the show who I've lost over the last 8.5, 9 years, and their family members have reached out and thanked me for having their voice there. Kurt Hooker, quite a guy. Tim Considine actually ended up being on 2 shows because his story was so incredible. He was a photographer, a producer, a racer, an author, a consultant. He was 2-term president of the Motor Press Guild, the largest automotive press association in the USA. He anchored the first live worldwide cybercast of the Indianapolis 500 and pioneering streaming audio internet reports from the 24-hour of Le Mans. He received the Motor Press Guild Dean Bachelor Award. Just an incredible guy. He wrote this book that he'd worked on for decades called Twice Around the Clock, The Yanks at Le Mans. And thankfully, he got that book done before we lost him. I ran into him on the lawn at Pebble. He was standing in front of this beautiful old race car. And he said, "This used to be my car, Mark. I learned how to race in this thing." And those of you who may recognize the name, he was Tim from his appearances in Spin and Marty on the Walt Disney's original Mickey Mouse Club. And he was the oldest son of the TV series My Three Sons. Very cool. I also got to meet his son, who I had on the show as well, who builds some incredible simulating machines for race car drivers and drivers to train in. But Tim was just one of those just great guys. I mean, he had so many stories. I probably could have had him back on the show 2, 3, 4 times. Tim Considine. He'll be missed by many, many people. The Quick Vic, the Vic Elford famous racer, was a guest on the show. I knew of him for, oh my gosh, years and years because of his racing of Porsches. Incredible driver from the 60s and 70s, an icon in Porsche history, probably one of the most versatile all-around drivers of all times, and he won pretty much every motoring event in Europe and the United States. The Monte Carlo Rally, the Daytona 24 Hours, Targa Florio, the Nürburgring 1000, Sebring, European Rally Championships. My gosh, Vic drove every one of them. He raced Formula One, Can-Am, Trans Am, off-road racing, raced in Africa, all over the place. And I was fortunate enough to see him several times at vintage car races. In fact, he was kind enough to give my son a ride in an old Porsche at Laguna Seca during the historic races. Incredible guy, Vic Elford. Just Google his name and you'll see so many things about Vic. He also drove for Steve McQueen, by the way, in the movie Le Mans, and he authored a wonderful book that was in association with Michael Kaiser's film, The Speed Merchants. It's pretty cool as well. So the great Quick Vic Elford. Mark Lyon. Mark Lyon was the managing director at GTO Engineering based in Berkshire in the United Kingdom. The company is one of those unique companies, those the world's leading specialists in classic Ferraris. Their team restored, repaired, created parts for old models of Ferraris. They rebuilt, reimagined old Ferraris. One of the most impressive and biggest classic Ferrari parts companies around, buying, manufacturing, and selling thousands of parts around the world for all the enthusiasts who had old Ferraris. He managed the facilities there in the UK and London and Los Angeles and offices in New York. His company is a tribute to what he has done because that company is still flourishing and living on even though we lost him. He knew how to build a business, and that is build a business that can run without you. But no doubt his teammates there and family and friends miss him desperately. We lost him in 2022 as well. Mark Lyon. Dr. Fred Simeon. Any of you who are into old vintage cars, race cars, know Fred Simeon. I was very happy to have him on the show. He's the founder and executive director of the Simeon Foundation Automotive Museum that's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The museum opened back in 2008. He had one of the most amazing collections of classic old sports racing cars that you would see anywhere. People know of that museum forever and ever. It still is flourishing today, and it will continue to flourish. He set things up so that it can live forever for people to go and enjoy these cars. He was one of the world's most prominent heart surgeons, neurosurgeons. Some amazing stories about him of helping people all over the world, saving lives. Amazing guy, super smart guy, and just a diehard automotive enthusiast. Dr. Fred Simeon, he'll be... Tony Dell, if you had told me when I started podcasting that I would be interviewing one of the kids from Leave It to Beaver, the older brother of Theodore Cleaver, I'd say, what? But I met Tony Dell through another guest who's been on the show here. Turns out he's a car guy, was a car guy. Sadly, we lost him this year. He was a film producer after those many years of the Leave It to Beaver show running, which still is syndicated and running all over the world. He was a director. He was a sculptor, an artist, did some very fascinating sculptures, and he was a lifelong automotive enthusiast. And of course, as I said, you remember him from Leave It to Beaver. It ran from 1957 to 63, but it's run every year since. And he was that wiser older brother, Wally Cleaver, the eldest son of June and Ward, and had some wonderful times on that show. But he went on to work behind the camera on many, many shows that you would know of. He's appeared in numerous TV shows as well. He was honored by the Young Artist Foundation, and its former Child Star Lifetime Achievement Award was another award that he got. He's a very creative guy, and I'll tell you something, when I got to talk with him, it was like going back to my childhood. The voice was the same. The cadence was the same. Just kind of a laid-back, very casual, cool dude who loved his old Corvair that was restored for him and was able to get that car back and still had it. So Tony Dow, yeah, what a great guy. And the last one on the list today, there's been 10 of these people we've lost this year. It's just, it's been a tough one. Paul Duchesne. Paul Duchesne was an automotive journalist for over 40 years. Everybody in the automotive journalism world knew Paul, loved Paul. In that time, he had owned about 250 cars. He drove an Isetta, three-wheeler daily car, as a reporter in London back in the 60s. He raced motorcycles and ran the 1,000-mile Moto Giro Italiano in a 57 Ducati, other rallies and so forth. He had written for the Chicago Tribune, the New York Times, Car and Driver, Auto Week, Roundel. I mean, this guy was just the journalist in automotive and automotive sports-related publications. He was writing classic car auctions for RM and Gooding, and just wonderful guy. I was so happy to get to know him, and so sad when we lost him unexpectedly due to an accident in 2022. All these folks left behind a legacy. I'll tell you, at the end of all my shows, I ask my guests to leave us with some words of wisdom and inspiration, and all of these folks had those great, inspiring words to share. No doubt many of you have probably lost someone in your life, maybe this past year, maybe further back. And that brings a great reflection for all of us to think about these people and the impact that they had in our lives. And I've been fortunate to meet so many people over the years since starting the Cars Yeah podcast who have shared their wisdom with me. I mean, I've just learned so much from these folks. And I guess these losses this year hit me in an even stronger way. Last year, 2021, there were 7 past guests we lost. Year before, it was 8. And when you start to meet people and then you start to lose people, it causes you to reflect a bit. And one of the things I've decided to do in the new year is I'm going to make a little bit of a change. So one thing I'm going to do is throttle back a little bit here in Cars Yeah. And beginning in the new year, I'm going to be doing 4 shows a week instead of 5, taking that Friday to utilize that time for some other things I want to focus on in my life. They're all obviously going to be probably car-related, family-related, event-related, but I've decided to do this, and I hope that won't affect your listening pleasure here, because I'm still going to be bringing you all these inspiring guests. Mostly, I want to thank all of you for the time that you guys give me to listen here, and I hope you've enjoyed reminiscing a little bit here about the great people that have been on the show that we've lost this year. One of the things I ask my guests to do is leave some words of inspiration at the end of each of their talks. So today I'm going to leave you one of mine that relates to what we've talked about today. I hope in the new year that you take more time to focus on yourself, on your health, on your family, and on your friends. Because if one thing that we've learned over the last couple of years, every day is not guaranteed to us. So that cliche that you need to make the best of every day certainly comes true. So Monday's show will be coming up here, and it will be filled with words of wisdom and advice from Tony Whatley. He's a successful businessman, author, automotive enthusiast, plus a life and business coach. And I thought it'd be good to bring him on as the New Year's here, talk about New Year's resolutions, how to make sure that the new year is great for you. So Tony's going to share his wisdom. So as we all head into the new year, that we make sure that 2023 is a winning year for you and everybody around you. Until we talk again, Happy New Year, everybody. Stay safe, have fun this weekend, and I'll see you down the road. Covercraft's newest 3-layer all-climate cover is especially engineered for moderate weather conditions. Plus, it's treated with an extra UV-resistant formula. It's very soft, it's breathable, and it's easy to store while pampering your paint, providing maximum UV, rain, and dust protection. If you live where it's windy, well, simply add their gust guards for those windy conditions for extra protection. Your 3-layer all-climate cover is custom-tailored with Covercraft's attention to detail, form, and fit with the quality and specifics that have been their standard since 1965. Covercraft protects cars, trucks, motorcycles, RVs, trailers, and your watercraft too. Every one of my vehicles is protected by a Covercraft cover, whether it's stored inside or out. And I've got a deal for you. If you use the code YEAH21 at covercraft.com, you'll get 10% off your Covercraft order. That's right, 10% off. Just use the code YEAH21 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. Years ago, when it was time to renew my collector car insurance policy, my carrier's rates went up. Way up, but my usage was the same and I never made a claim. I didn't even have a ticket. So what's with that? So I turned to American Collectors Insurance. Has your collector car insurance recently raised your rates for no good reason? Tired of paying an annual membership fee? Then it's time to look around and call American Collectors Insurance. I shopped around, I asked friends for recommendations, and found a winner that I can trust. And boy, I'm glad I did. I saved hundreds of dollars every year and slept better at night knowing my baby was properly insured. American Collectors Insurance have been protecting vehicles since 1976. They provided me with an agreed value insurance policy backed by their history of taking great care of their clients. What could be better than that? So give them a call and ask for a quote today. 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. And protect the ones you love like I did with American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. For several years now, you've heard me talk about Linkage Magazine. I've been a subscriber since the start. Their talented and creative team brings you a spectacular publication and website that shares the automotive passion from a worldwide perspective. Linkage is about driving, restoring, collecting, and first-hand experience at collector car auctions and more. They bring you real-world values plus rational, experienced opinions on the current markets. They cover the automotive world and the people who share our passions. And Linkage Magazine has grown, mailing you 6 issues annually. Join me on this journey with Linkage. They're geared for the automotive life. You can subscribe at linkagemag.com.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.